So it has been a couple of months since I've uploaded a video to YouTube. So, you know, I've been studying, I've been moving house, I've been doing a whole bunch of other stuff. I've been super busy, so it's not really been very easy or very practical to spend the time that it takes to actually create new content for YouTube. So fortunately, the bulk of all of that busy period is now behind me, and I'm actually settling in a little bit more and finding the time to focus on some more creative endeavors. So I'll be able to start getting back into YouTube videos now. So I thought it was good to make a bit of a comeback and address a question at the same time. A question that's been asked to me, I don't know how many times in this 2-month hiatus period. And that question is, what dosage do I need to take reishi mushroom in order to alleviate anxiety and the symptoms of anxiety? And I think it's a really good question. It's a very common question, but in order to answer that question, I think we really need to look at fundamental understanding of reishi mushroom and adaptogens in general, because a lot of people, they get into herbalism, or they get into like natural methods of healing, and they carry with them this kind of Western medical pharmaceutical mindset, and they want to look at herbs like they look at drugs, and, you know, how much of it do I need to take in order to achieve that effect? And that really isn't how a lot of herbs work. It's definitely not how adaptogens work. So, you know, health really is about, from a very holistic, natural perspective, health is about balance. It's about equilibrium. And that's what adaptogens do. They're always trying to drive us towards balance, towards homeostasis. Or in fact, I'd say not homeostasis. I think homeostasis is actually a bit of a redundant word. I'd use homeodynamics to be more specific, because that point of stability and balance and equilibrium is very delicate, and it's always moving and it's always changing according to our changing lives and, you know, our circumstances and our surroundings. So that point of balance is always shifting somewhat, and so I think the term homeodynamics actually explains the delicate balance of our health much more accurately. But that said, balance is what we're trying to achieve here. When we feel very balanced on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually, then we don't suffer from anxiety. You know, if we're very balanced, things like that don't really happen to us. Anxiety is a sign that we're out of balance. So how out of balance are we? You know, we're all out of balance. We all have varying degrees of imbalance. So some people find that reishi mushroom is literally the missing puzzle piece for them, you know, and they take it and it's just like a revelation. It completely changes their lives. Unfortunately, this isn't really the case for most of us. Most of us will find that reishi mushroom does deliver very pronounced and very profound benefits, but often it needs to be done in conjunction with other modalities of healing. We need to be on a path of healing and personal development already, and reishi mushroom needs to be just one component in that path in order to catalyze a lot of the things that we're doing. So trying to look at reishi mushroom as this kind of drug that we take, and it just eliminates anxiety, eliminates depression, and makes us feel, you know, invincible, it's not really a very realistic perspective on reishi. So, you know, if you're expecting reishi mushroom to kind of burn up all of your negative karma, you're probably setting yourself up for some big disappointment there, actually. And like I've said in previous videos, reishi is a saprophyte, which means in the wild, in nature, it selects diseased and injured and dying trees to grow upon. And the reason why it's doing that is because these organisms perhaps are becoming something of a burden to the forest ecosystem. They're like a sickness within the ecosystem, and they're a weight that's pressing against the immunity of the forest. And so reishi aims to take these down and recycle them into very fine organic matter, into very fine humus as quickly as possible so that it can nourish the ecosystem. It can actually nourish the mycelial mat within the soil, which can benefit not just, the mycelium, but all other plants, all other mushrooms, all animals that are eating those plants and mushrooms within the forest. So reishi is actually nourishing, protecting, it's offering immunological support, it's offering quite possibly spiritual support on all of these levels for all of these organisms, and it's doing that in nature. So when we look at reishi mushroom pretty much on all levels of healing, but specifically we're talking in this video about anxiety and mental health, we can see that reishi, this is a really good metaphor for how reishi works with the mind. So it doesn't just kind of eliminate your anxiety. What it's doing is, in a sense, sacrificially feeding upon your anxiety. So it's not just eliminating it, but it's breaking it down. It's taking that insurmountable obstacle of anxiety, it's making it more permeable, it's making it more pliable, it's making it softer, it's gently and gradually dissolving it so that it can break down into a kind of psychic humus for us. But we have to till that soil, we have to work that ecosystem ourselves. So reishi is really helping to fertilize the ground or the soil for our own path of personal development. It's not a tool that we can just take like a drug and expect these results and then we just get on with our lives business as usual. That's really not how it works. So when you think about it, anxiety and conditions like anxiety, all those kind of those tense mental health issues are very introverted. They're very claustrophobic. There's not a lot of space in those conditions. The mind doesn't feel spacious. The mind doesn't feel open. It feels very contracted, and we go into this kind of panic attack mode. And that is a clear sign that there's a lack of space. So reishi, in sort of dissolving the substance of anxiety, is helping to open up space. It's actually clearing the density of the problem and allowing space to open up, allowing openness. And when it does that, it's, that's the space of possibility. That's the space or the openness of our potentiality. So if we want to transform our anxiety, if we want it to change, then we need to engage with that potential for it to change. We need to engage with the possibility of it changing. And in order to do that, we need space. So reishi mushroom is very good at helping us recognize that space. It's not really giving us that space. That space is already there. It's inherent. It's innate. But reishi mushroom is helping us to reach that realization that space is there. So this is really how it works. It's working with our current situation. So we need to be working with our current situation. We need to be on a path already to get the most benefit for reishi to really catalyze our potential. We really need to be on some kind of spiritual path or some form of personal development practice in order to really see the profound benefits, mental health benefits that we can receive through consuming regular doses of reishi mushroom. So if we're planning on working with reishi mushroom for mental health and to alleviate anxiety, then I think it's really useful to look at this more as more of a shamanic experience. This is enlisting, or this is what's known as enlisting a herbal ally. And reishi mushroom is really there to support us on the path that we're already on. So it's there to support us in facing our fears, in facing our problems, in facing our anxiety and our depression, and really helping us to work with those conditions directly rather than just habitually trying to escape from them. So reishi is really there to help open up our self-imposed mental and emotional borders and really expand the periphery of our potential so that we can remain in states of anxiety and panic for longer with a reduced need to escape from them. And this really is the space that Reishi creates that can actually catalyze the transformation of conditions like anxiety. So it's not really a question of like what dosage, how much Reishi do I take for my anxiety to be gone. It doesn't really work like that. So I think the question is more, how involved and invested are you in your own healing? Because that's how well Reishi mushroom is going to work for you. And when you work with a plant or a herbal medicine in this way as a herbal ally, then it's very much activating your sense of intuition. You become very familiar with that substance, with how it makes you feel. You're taking it every day over a long period of time. You really begin to feel the difference. For example, when I began to take Reishi mushroom for the first time, the bitterness of the concentrated extract was just so intense. For me, I wasn't used to bitter flavors as bitter as that anyway. So for me, it was, I thought to myself, I don't know if I'm really going to be able to do this for long, because I really don't like the taste. But then as the days passed, as the weeks passed, as the months passed, I found I was really craving that bitterness, and I would have Reishi, and literally on a cellular level I would feel the benefits. And, that was a complete transformation for me, because I became very familiar with really the spirit of Reishi and how that interacted with my own energy field, how that interacted with my own being, my own spirit, and a relationship was formed. And over consistent use, there was intimacy that was developing. There was a greater sense of familiarity. And so I began to know when I needed Reishi mushroom, when I needed to call upon it as an ally, and perhaps when I didn't need it so much. So, working with herbal medicine in this way, especially with adaptogens that are very safe, they're non-toxic, there's no known contraindications or negative side effects, working with medicines like this, in this way, is very much working on the level of intuition. So in terms of dosage, work with these kind of natural substances, natural beings in this kind of ally dynamic, and you will know what dosage to take.